What was the inspiration behind your web series, There Will Be Brawl?
Well, I've done a couple of web projects with my writing partner Jack. It's like a series called Geek Week for a while. We did some random video internet skits and just having a fun time with video production. And my friend Zach brought up the fact that in Smash Brothers Brawl, Kirby is essentially a really messed up character. He flies around and eats you and then wears your skin. And so it went into this whole slew of Hannibal Lecter references and comparisons, and then we started tweaking the other Nintendo characters in the game and kind of giving them this kind of dark atmosphere and background and alteration of their personality. And then we got partway through the night and went, this would actually be kind of a cool series. So we just began discussing a storyline and character arcs and piecing together what was supposed to be a really short, fun web series about, 3 episodes, about 3 to 5 minutes an episode, real easy. And instead it ended up with 10 episodes and approximately 3.5 hours of full story. So that's how Brawl got started.
Ah, there you go. Are there any plans? I mean, obviously you guys have concluded this series, but are there any plans for anything similar to that series in the works? Perhaps like another Nintendo parody, Nintendo video game parody type of thing, or so Capcom maybe?
I'm a Capcom lover myself, but I think most of the projects we're working on now are more original projects, partially because it gets a little legally sticky when you try and make any sort of money based off of a project that's so directly parodying an existing property. But while our primary new projects are not immediate game parodies, there is a sketch project I'm working with some of the cast members of Brawl that are is exactly geek-centric video game humor, and so there'll definitely be a lot more of that element to that, which would be nice, because to be perfectly honest, that's where I feel most comfortable with my work. So yeah, well, I'll have more information on that down the road, but we are working on something that is in the realm, although a little more kind of sketch comedy style.
Okay, very cool. So here's a big one. Your IMDb lists that you lent your voice to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. What was it like working on pretty much the hottest video game in recent memory, and I believe the best-selling video game of all time for a single title?
It was a lot of yelling, believe it or not. Military games intrinsically are known for a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling. Like 4 hours in a booth yelling, go over to that taco truck, go over to that building, go over to that brown building, go over to that red building. And it's just, you go down the list and just screaming and yelling, and it's a lot of fun. It's very, very cathartic if you're having a rough week. But no, I myself, I used to work with Infinity Ward from a production standpoint back in the day when Call of Duty 2 and the original Modern Warfare. So when I left to pursue my incredibly stable lifestyle as a writer-actor in Los Angeles, not at all stable, but it was kind of funny to go back there and then book the gig for the people that I used to work for, and they didn't know because I'm using a different name for my SAG name. And so it's kind of like a small reunion with some of the production folks. And so that itself was kind of fun for me. But as a fan of the series, it was kind of weird getting to go in there and record for it. It's like 2 or 3 sessions, I think. And you probably, if you played a lot of the multiplayer, you've heard me screaming and yelling at you many times, I'm sure. My only wish is that at some point in the near future that the AFTRA and SAG people will be able to get out a contract that will allow some sort of residual or back-end payment for the voice actors, as there is none currently for video games. So Modern Warfare sold more than any other form of media known to man, made billions of dollars, and I saw 3 days' worth of paychecks on it. So it's one of those things where I'm really proud of the game. I think it's great. But to see a game do so incredibly well and, not really feel any appreciation from it is a little kind of it's a little bittersweet.
So you've worked on multiple different types of games on shows, but going specifically back to the games, you've done first-person shooters with Modern Warfare 2, you've done RPGs, you've done fighting games. What's been your favorite to do?
For me, I really love doing Street Fighter as a person who played Street Fighter growing up, and I used to be like tournament level in Alpha 3 back in the day. But so that was just kind of a fun personal project. But my favorites are the role-playing games. Partially because it's a lot of dialogue, which means a lot of pay, which is always nice. But also, my favorite type of video game of all time is role-playing games. I grew up playing, the Final Fantasies, playing the Baldur's Gate series, all the any RPG that I could get my hands on. I'm a tabletop role player at heart, since high school. So those games, to me, just from a personal standpoint, I love getting these really interesting kind of strange fantasy-based personalities and tweaking them a bit, giving them a little bit of life, and just seeing where it takes you, you know. And it ranges so much. You know, most games nowadays, like you're the brawny guy with the gun, or you're the bad guy with the gun, or you're the villain who's a bad or a good guy with a gun that you're not sure yet. You know, it varies. But with role-playing games, you could go in there and record an orc for an hour and a half, and record an arrogant dragon for a half an hour, and then go ahead and jump over to a series of scaredy goblins, and then do an old wizard. You know, and like that to me, that's the fun. That's the meat of it. That's my obsession with the voiceover. Personally, it's just doing a bunch of random, weird, extremely out of my own personal realm characters and just giving them life. So